alaikum, everyone, again. And I'm going to move on to the second topic of tonight's debate, which is regarding what is the best method to combat Wahhabism. For over 100 years or so, the sect of Wahhabism has impinged upon the civil rights of all Muslims, particularly those of the Shi'as and particularly those of the Ithna Ashari Ja'faris. The destruction of the shrines of the Baqi' in the 1920s is a key example. And there are many examples that we can put forward, such as the destruction of very holy sites into public toilets and many arbitrary buildings in Mecca and Medina. This continues every day, and we have evidence that this year the Shi'as have been abused in the Hajj pilgrimage, and we also have evidence that many many Wahhabi scholars now plan in the future to demolish the shrine of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So what do we do is the question essentially. We have 3 or 4 options. We either be diplomatic about it, try to negotiate with the Wahhabis. We either resort to some kind of violent protest, perhaps turning up at their embassies, trashing in their windows, this kind of thing. Or we just be silent about it. We say, the Imam's coming, the Imam will sort it out, and we do nothing, essentially. So those are the options. Perhaps the speakers will find some even more radical options. And now we'll go on to the speakers for their opening statements on how to combat Wahhabism. And we'll go to Brother Yahya first this time.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. I believe that this topic is one that appeals dearly to my heart as someone that can identify himself as a former Salafi or Wahhabi, whatever you call it. I converted to Wahhabism at the age of 15, and I spent 2 years of my life as a Wahhabi. And therefore I know roughly how the brothers think and roughly what means one can break their dawah through. Actually, at the age of 17, I accidentally downloaded one of Mahdi al-Mudarrisi's, may Allah protect him, one of his lectures on Muharram, the first of his Muharram lectures in 2004, and I heard about how Imam al-Hussein was killed, and this opened up my heart to learning about Shi'ism, and also made me question many of my beliefs. How could this glorious generation around the Prophet end up killing the beloved grandson of the Prophet? And so I believe that this is the first method which we as Shias should try and appeal to in order to break Wahhabism. We need to be more active in our tabligh, we need to be more active in spreading the message to non-Muslims, and particularly disseminating our literature, which provides a challenge to orthodox Wahhabi theology. My second point where I believe that we can provide a challenge to Wahhabis is in the same way, and I'm going to say this very diplomatically because I believe what I'm going to say is very controversial. In the same way that when today we discuss the Holocaust, we have no problems in naming the figures who perpetrated the Holocaust, naming their evil sins, naming the filth that they have committed in history. Likewise, I believe that we need to engage in a practice, metaphorically speaking, which is similar to what the Prophet Imam Ali and Nabi Ibrahim alayhi all did in history, which is destroying the idols of corrupt and deviant ideologies. Now, what do I mean by idols of corrupt and deviant ideologies? We all know that these Salafis, these Wahhabis, they follow certain figures in history who happen to have acted in very similar ways that these individuals do. Certain individuals who lived amongst the Prophet's people, and certain individuals who were the first to attack the Ahlulbayt after the Prophet's death. And so that is my second point. I believe we need to be quite active in openly exposing these individuals who they follow, and openly exposing to the world the deviant form and corrupt methodology that these individuals took when they overthrew the legitimate Islamic government of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. And we need to expose to the world that Wahhabism is not actually the true form of Islam as preached by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. We need to realize that Wahhabism is not just an ideology which affects us as Shias. It's not just an ideology which affects other Sufis and Sunnis. So it wasn't just Jannat al-Baqi' that they destroyed. It wasn't just Samarra that they attacked the shrines of. At one point they even leveled Karbala. If you study the original invasions of the Wahhabi forces that left from Saudi Arabia, they went into Iraq and they leveled the shrines at Karbala. So basically, when we look at the other trends that they have done when they go to other countries, you look at Afghanistan where they destroyed old Buddhist monuments. You find this is a trend that does not fit with Islamic practice. Islam, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how He preserved the body of Fir'aun as a sign for mankind. And so Islam actually teaches a reverence for preserving old structures so that we might learn about previous civilizations through these things. I believe if the Wahhabis would even go to Egypt, they would destroy the pyramids and destroy other relics of humanity. We need to start a campaign in which we globally inform the world at large, not just Muslims, that the Wahhabis are a threat, and we can only do so by presenting an alternative form of Islam, the pure Islam as taught by the Ahlulbayt alayhi salatu wasalam, the Islam which Imam al-Hussein died for on the plains of Karbala. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So just very briefly, before we go on to Dr. Ali, how exactly would this campaign take shape? How would you openly expose Wahhabism?
TV channels, events, openly protesting, openly disseminating literature. When we go for marches, we should openly hand out literature exposing the idols of these people, exposing their beliefs, exposing the fatwas which exist in their books, and offering what actually the Prophet Muhammad and the Ahlul Bayt taught on these issues as an alternative.
Okay, thank you very much. Shall we move on to...
I think it's the wrong question to ask. How do we combat Wahhabism? The word combat, if you go to a dictionary and you look for the definition of combat, I have it here, you find that it says take action to reduce, destroy or prevent something undesirable. So there's like fight, struggle, battle, wrestle, war.
So these are merely synonyms, aren't they?
Yes,
I mean, it doesn't have to mean that.
Well, if you say I'm going to go in combat with another country, you're not going to have a friendly discussion with them, are you? So I think it's the wrong question to ask, because as Muslims and as specifically as believers of Ahlul Bayt and the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, I think we are we are better than this. We're better than approaching this particular, if you like to call them a sect, or I don't think they are a sect, but if you like to call them this particular group, so-called the Wahhabis, in such a manner. We have been taught by our imams, by Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and by our imams alayhim salam, that violence is not the way forward, right? I will ask the question: how do we deal with this Wahhabi threat that we always have, especially when we go to Umrah, when we go to Hajj? We find some sort of a struggle with these people, and of course they are in fact destroying the image of Islam. So I'll ask that question, and I don't like to ask such a violent question. How am I going to combat them? It has some sort of violent connotation to it. If the chairman allows me, I would like to just take a minute or two just to give you a brief history of Wahhabism. And I think a lot of people talk about Wahhabism. You've heard about Wahhabis and things like that. You sort of distinguish them by their looks, etc. But who are actually the Wahhabis? Have you asked this question to yourself? Who are the Wahhabis? Where did they come from? Were they at the time of Rasul, for example? Were they at the time of our Imam? Who are they? So, allow me to just for a minute or two, just to give a brief history of Wahhabism. So it is Wahhabism as a name comes from was ascribed to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, right? Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab was a Hanbali, When I started reading about him, I thought he was a Salafi, because a lot of the Wahhabis, they say you're Salafis, but he was a Hanbali. His father was a judge, Abdul Wahhab. He was a judge, and he was sort of a learned scholar, etc. And Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab was very interested in tafsir and tawheed and these things like that. He was very interested in studying and things. And when he became youth, he started to question a lot of things. Started to question, had dialogues with his father, etc. Things like that. So later on, he went into a pilgrimage to Hajj, and from there, right, from pilgrimage to Hajj. By the way, they were living in Najd. Najd is sort of like the area of Arab Peninsula. It's an area of the Arab Peninsula. They say now, the Saudis say Najd is actually in Saudi Arabia, but it could be Iran, it could be Jordan, it could be all these places. So they were living in Najd, and his father was a judge in Najd, and Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab went into pilgrimage to Mecca. And when he finished Mecca, he started to have these ideas that surely you cannot go to graves and ask and talk to those people in graves. That's not really right, is it? You shouldn't really talk to graves and things like that. You should only speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he sort of mixed this with a new definition of Tawheed, a new ideology that he came up with. Of course, that is not explained in the Quran at all. It's a completely different Tawheed that we believe in. So he went to Basra. I know time is pressing, so I will go very quickly. He went to Basra, and the people of Iraq told him, get out of here. Thankfully, knowing that there are people of Iraq, so they'll do that. Right, so they told him, get out of here, you're not welcome here. He tried to champion his idea of Tawheed. He told them, look, why are you doing this, etc., get out, don't try to think otherwise. They told him, get out, we don't like your views. So anyway, he went back to Najd, etc., and he had disputes with his father. His father disagreed with him. Later on, when his father died, etc., he went to same region, a region in Najd, right? Najd was quite a big place, and he met Saud. Right, this person who was supposedly a scholar, etc. And he met him and he told him about his ideas. And Saud was very impressed by his ideas, so he said, I will champion your ideas. So that was the start of Wahhabism. It's called Wahhabism because it came from Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Remember, when we say Wahhabism, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is known as Wahhab. Right? His father was known as Abdul Wahhab. He should really be called as, his name is Muhammad, he should be called Muhammadiyya, because his father has nothing to do with Wahhabism, Abdul Wahhab, right? But they took from his father's name, Al-Wahhabiyya, right? But his father and himself were Hanbalis, right? And they, of course, they did also follow Ibn Taymiyyah, etc. There are details, and they are in books. I took some of this from a book called Wahabiism by Ja'far al-Subhan. So then later on, the Saudi government sort of was increasing in size and in terms of the area, etc. And they started to adopt this ideology of so-called Wahabism. And then when later he died, they, as Brother Yahya said, that they went to Iraq, to Karbala in around 1800. They went to Karbala and actually massacred the people down there. And as he said, they destroyed the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Abbas. And that's something not a lot of people unfortunately know, right? And we should actually come and remember this every single year. I believe that the Wahhabis came to Karbala and they targeted the followers of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, and they did what they did. And since then they have been in trouble. So I just wanted to give a brief. I know my time is up, but just finally I will say, how do we deal with the Wahhabis? I think it's very, very important that we deal with them in a peaceful way. There's no point in trying to go to, for example, Hajj, Umrah, whatever, and trying to start a fight with this person who has a long beard, short dress, etc. You ask him, why do you have a short dress? He says, because the shaitan keeps, if I have a long dress, the shaitan holds it into it. If I have a short dress, the shaitan won't hold into it. And you think things like that, you say, start to argue with them, etc. There's no point, because these people, the Quran says beautifully about these people. They say, Summun, Bukmun, Umyun, Fahum la ya'lamun. You do whatever. Summun, Bukmun, Umyun, you do whatever. They don't hear you, they don't, they don't want to listen, whatever. Their heart is not open to you. There's no point arguing, fighting with them. There's no point at all, I believe. So no combating, right? What I believe is that, as Brother Yahya said, that we have to be stronger in the media side. We sort of fail, I believe, in that side. If we are sort of stronger in terms of the media, we tell the world what Wahhabism is all about. All the extremists come from this particular sect, Osama bin Laden was a Wahhabi, etc., etc. Then the people will know. And I will finish with this. Recently, I was in Cambridge to do work, and then my collaborator, we started talking about this particular topic, and then he said, if there are a huge minority, I don't know as a percentage of Wahhabis, in terms of Muslims, probably less than 5%, right? But he said, if there are a huge minority in the world, surely, why don't you guys sort of make sure that they don't have a voice in this world? And I told him, unfortunately, it's our fault, our media. We don't really work. We don't have a lobby system. We don't really give emphasis into our media at all.
Okay, thank you very much. So both speakers proposing perhaps a more proactive role in the media. Shall we go to the brother at the back over there? Thank you.
Can I ask Brother Yahya to clarify what's the difference between Salafism and Wahhabism, please?
Slightly off topic, but
sure. It's not a problem. Salafism is just a more politically correct term they give themselves, because they say that they follow the Salaf as-Salih, meaning the righteous predecessors, and so they say, don't call us Wahhabis, because this name had a very negative connotation whenever it was mentioned in the Middle East. And so they switched the name back to Salafi, as in we are the ones that follow the first 3 generations that came after the Prophet, and that's where the name comes from. But it means the same thing.
Okay, and the other brother right at the back, and then we'll come to you.
Brother Yahya, can you clarify your Holocaust analogy? Holocaust analogy that you just made in your talk.
Can you elaborate on the analogy you used that involves the Holocaust?
On the Holocaust, yes, and I believe this comes back to what Dr. Hilli was saying. I disagree with Dr. Hilli. He believes that the Wahhabis are a new phenomenon. I believe that the name might have changed, but the phenomenon has existed from day one, since the time of Rasulullah. So these Wahhabis, they go around destroying shrines, and yet you have a figure from the Prophet's companions who goes around cutting down any sacred thing which was left behind by the Prophet after the Prophet's death. So for example, you had the tree under which the companions gave bay'ah to the Prophet. The companions used to go and sit beside this tree to try and remember the Prophet. This companion comes out and he goes, no, that's it, I'm going to cut down that tree. And this particular companion, I'm not going to mention his name because this show is going to be aired. I believe that he is the founding father of Wahhabism, and that Wahhabism is a trend from him. And so the analogy I gave of the Holocaust, brother, in order to elaborate on that, when we mention the Holocaust, we have no fear in mentioning Hitler, for example, and other main ideological leaders who perpetrated the Holocaust. In the same way, I don't believe that we should shy away from mentioning and dealing with publicly, when speaking to non-Muslims, who the ideological forefathers who perpetrated the modern ideology of Wahhabism are.
Are you saying that we should publicly denounce these founding fathers of Wahhabism that you so mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. And do you feel that that might have a contradictory effect and portray Shi'as in an even more pejorative sense and create even more conflict in the Muslim community?
I believe it will generate some controversy. However, we need to distinguish between two things. Do non-Shias already know what we believe about these individuals? I believe so, yes. We live in a digital age where our views are out on the internet already, so they consider us cowards for lying about it to their faces and saying, no, we don't believe about these individuals. Number two, is there a precedent for this within the lifetime of the Imams? Within the lifetime of Amir al-Mu'mineen, one finds, if we return back to Kitab Sulaym bin Qais al-Hilali, which is one of the earliest works we have as Shi'as, after the Battle of Jamal, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he got upon the minbar in Basra and he started openly denouncing these individuals. And it says that some Shias were killed as a result of this by Muawiyah. However, it also says, Sulaim narrates, however, many people opened their eyes, وَاسْتَبْصَرُوا, meaning they converted to Shiism, they became ideologically Shia. So it has its, unfortunately, negative effects in the short term, but on the long run, it will open up many people's eyes and make them see that this form of Islam is not the Islam of a prophet, and in fact it is antithetical to the Islam taught by Prophet Muhammad and his Ahlulbayt, peace be upon them all.
We're going to go to the audience, but just very briefly, so you believe that the deaths of a few people justifies the fact that some people may convert?
I am not justifying the deaths of anyone. However, what I'm saying is that our books are available on the internet, so one can go and read what we believe anyway. These people are killed anyway. One can say that because of Shias openly speaking about these individuals, Shias are getting killed all over the world. I must have some Pakistani friends in the audience. How many decades have Shias been getting killed in Pakistan for now? How many decades have Shias been persecuted in countries like Egypt, where they've been converting recently? It's not a new phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon that's brought on by people speaking openly. This is just an excuse and a scapegoat that the people that kill people hide behind.
Okay, fine. Do we have any? Can we go to the brother at the front over here who's waiting for a question? Can you just wait until the microphone gets to you? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's for Dr. Ali. You know, when you said we're dealing with people that we can't really talk to, probably they won't listen to us. So don't you think that when they attack us, when they persecute us, don't you think that we need to respond in a manner that involves combat? Like if you can't talk to them, if you can't like you said media, but media won't really be responding to them. Media will be like you're telling the people, but it doesn't mean you're focusing on them. Like when they attack you, you're supposed to respond, but if you can't respond diplomatically.
So how would you suggest that we respond?
Are you suggesting that we use some kind of violence?
I mean, like we have had protests, and we've had protests.
Yeah.
Don't you think that will be a bit more of a clearer way to go?
You know, you can come out and protest, that's absolutely fine. And in fact, you know, if you like to do that, but unfortunately you're underestimating the power of the media. The media can actually, if you do well and you actually have the right people to go and come out in the media and speak the right things, then you are actually defeating those people without you doing much anything else, any combating of any kind, right? The media is extremely powerful, and now we should also use the digital era, such as the Facebook and the YouTubes and things like that. You know, these things are very powerful. You know, I saw a program last time about how Facebook changed the revolution in Egypt, changed the revolution in Tunisia, and changed the revolution to a lesser extent in Libya. But without Facebook, perhaps you wouldn't have got a regime change in Egypt or Tunisia. So it's extremely powerful. Remember in Egypt, just very quickly, in Egypt, they hardly used any violence or combating, right? Hardly at all. It's just Facebook. They told everyone to come to the square, right, and just protest. And this is what happened. So let's use the media. Let's use these technologies, digital technology, to try to make our voices heard. And very importantly, just finally, I say that if you feel that you do not have the right knowledge, or you haven't been educated to a level that you can come out in media, or come out in Facebook and say such a thing, whatever you like to say, right? Then please don't, because it might have other effects, and more negative effects, whilst you think that you are doing something good. First of all, go and read about Wahabism, go and read about the history, detailed history, read about what they believe in, read about what you believe in as well, right? Read about what you believe in, read about what Shiism, what we believe in, what is it that, why are we Shias? What's the difference between Shias and the others, right? And then come out and talk about these things.
Okay. Does anyone from the sisters have any comments or opinions? No. Shall we go to the brother over there? All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I have 2 points actually. In points, I'm going to split the Wahhabism combat thing into two. One is worldwide, international, and one is within Islam. Worldwide, I speak to a lot of non-Muslims, and they tend to group all the Muslims into one. What they see in the media is what they portray all Muslims to be as. So our problem is not Ibn Taymiyyah or Muhammad Abdul Wahhab. They don't care. Non-Muslims don't care who these people are. What they care is what the Muslims do today, what they see in the media, what they do. So I've spoken to a few of them, and they say, why don't Muslims come out and protest against Osama bin Laden, for instance? Why don't Muslims come and protest against 7/7? If Muslims came out and protested against 7/7, it would change a lot of people's minds and perceptions, I think. That's for international. Inter-Muslim, I find when I debate with Wahhabis, if we label them as Wahhabis, I find I'm always on the defensive. They always put you on the defensive. Why do you do Latam? Why do you, I don't know, why do you go to Karbala? Why do you do this and this? Always on the defense. We're answering. I think we should change our approach in that we should go on the attack. Why not go on the attack with our questions? Why do you, for instance, revere Umar? Do you know about Umar? Do you know about Abu Bakr? We'll go on and on. So I think that's my points to.
Do you have any comments in response to that? I agree entirely with what the brother said. However, in regards to the second point, I believe you have hit the ball on its head, brother, and I believe that this is a tactic we need to employ. In regards to the first point, I would say that we shouldn't have to be apologetic for things that Wahhabis do. If we want to go out and protest 7/7, we shouldn't be doing it in the form of, oh, we're sorry, we distance ourselves from this. Rather, we should make clear from the outset that this is not our religion, and we don't even want to affiliate ourselves with anyone that follows a religion vaguely resembling this.
But the facts on the ground are that they do see us in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. Whether we like it or not, we're put in the same boat as the Wahhabis. We have to take the facts on the ground at face value and say, okay, maybe we're not doing it apologetically, but to show the world that we are different.
Can I just agree with your first point, but disagree with your second point, because I think we have to distinguish between Wahhabism and Sunnism, right? You can't come out and just for the sake of it have an argument and attack others, tell them about Umar or Abu Bakr, etc., etc.
I'm not saying we go and start the argument.
Yeah. No, but the examples you gave, I don't think they're right. But perhaps what you can come out and attack them with proof. Remember, if you, as I said previously, that you come and attack, that's absolutely fine. Have a dialogue. When we say attack, you have a discussion, a dialogue, right? A hiwar, yes, a hiwar. You have a dialogue, but when you attack them, don't go into the issues that regarding the Sahaba and things like that. These things are not specific to Wahhabis. Go to the issues that distinguish between Wahhabis and Sunnis. These things that have caused these, have actually made a lot of our Sunni brothers hate the Wahhabis, right? Try to attack on these things, but regarding our Sahaba issue, perhaps it's not the right thing.
Okay, I think Bro Yahya would like to respond to that. I'm not responding directly to what Dr. Hilli said, but well, I kind of am indirectly responding to him. On the second point, which he disagreed with, I believe that we do need to be entirely objective in this analysis of ours of the Wahhabis. The Wahhabis, their main epistemology, if you like it, the way they derive Islam, the way they understand Islam, is to go back to the authentic ahadiths which are shared by all Sunnis. So they particularly take Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. And I just wanted to point out, why is it that we find that Wahhabis tend to be the more consistent Sunnis who are following the texts? If some Sunnis want to have shrines upon graves like us Shias, that's fine. But you find it goes against their very own fundamental texts. And in order to combat Wahhabism, we unfortunately do need to deal with these texts and show how absurd they are. Whether or not we're going to offend some Sunni sentiments in doing so, unfortunately that's just how life is. You're never going to please everyone. When you want to give a talk on the Muslim Jesus, you're going to offend some Christians because you're going to say he's not God and he wasn't crucified. That's just how life is, and unfortunately I think that's been how we need to approach it.
I didn't say we shouldn't really go back to Sahih Muslim, their books. Absolutely fine. Go back to their books. But what I'm saying is that don't make the dialogue discussion a Sunni Shia dialogue. Where you say, why do you believe in, Khilafah should have been given to Amir al-Mu'mineen, or you say no, blah blah, etc. Or give proof in that. This is a different issue. Let's focus. This issue is about Wahhabism, And if you have proof that Wahhabis, the ideology is wrong, it's very much, by the way, different than the Sunni ideology, right? Then you come out and say the reasons are A, B, C, D. But I just wanted you to distinguish between these two aspects.
Okay, are there any other comments from the floor? Shall we take the one at the back and then we'll come to the brother at the front?
Just getting back to the point of discussion and stuff, like when I've personally like been at uni and stuff, and I've spoken to a few like brothers and stuff, they're fed so much like propaganda and stuff. It's so hard to get through it all. Like you would talk to them and present them with some verses or some evidence, they would do the same. And when you go to counteract what they've said, and let's say they find like the evidence to be true or this, they'll flip it on you, and they'll use techniques like that. So they'll never accept what you have to say. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them, are like that. But they'll use claims like, oh, you're doing taqiyya, you don't believe in this, your books say different, you do this, you have a totally different Quran and stuff like that. How can we overall change this, all this stuff that's been fed into them and stuff?
That's a question. Would you like to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting issue about what you said about taqiyya, because it reminds me of a point that I really wanted to make, which I was going to make right now, is the issue that unfortunately, when I talk about media, unfortunately we have people in our community who are Shias, right, who have said they are ulama, etc., have actually destroyed the image of Shiism by then coming and cursing the Sahaba, openly. They come and curse Aisha, who the Quran describes as she is al-Mu'mineen, right? As Zawjat al-Rasul, etc. So they come and say that we have to curse those Sahaba, etc. Whereas in every single alim marji' says that this is not allowed, because Imam Ali alayhi salam also says that أكره أن تكونوا من السبابين. I hate it, or I don't like it when you are people who come and just curse other people, right? We say we disagree with them, absolutely fine. We disagree with the Sahaba, etc., etc. But cursing unanimously in our Shia faith, we believe that it is not allowed, right? But there are people who come and say, so it's interesting when, I went to some of the Wahhabi websites, I remember the addresses, and some of them say that, the Shias have come out and said that this particular scholar, he's not, he doesn't represent Shiism, and this is not belief, they're doing taqiyya, right? So you're absolutely right, you can't, but that's why when I say it's someone bukmun umyun fahum la ya'lamun, you try your best, right, in a peaceful manner, in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa have taught us. Then if they keep on saying taqiyya, etc., just leave them. Lakum dinukum, and what? Waliya din. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's your religion and my religion.
Alright, thank you very much. Can we, I know Brother Yahya wants to speak, and there's a brother here as well, but can we go to the sister in the audience?
Right, just to carry on from that point you just said, I think Imam Hussein says something to the effect of
I'll summarize.
Imam Hussein says arguing with irrational people is a sign of ignorance, and through my experiences with Wahhabis from Ashura Awareness Week, especially in the Aptox of University, they are irrational people. So does there come a point where we can just say there's no point of even starting the dialogue with these people because would simply be wasting our time, which is what happens every single year after year at university?
She's saying, is there any benefit? For the audience, is there any benefit in debating with the Wahhabis, because they seem to be perfectly irrational?
I think it all depends on whether you feel, again I say you feel that you have the complete knowledge that you can actually have a dialogue and things like that. When I was at university a long time ago, I did have some debates and things like that, and majority of the cases, they're not going to listen. They're going to say taqi or whatever, these things they come up with. But perhaps there are people who are sitting down in the debate that might benefit. Perhaps you're talking to this Wahhabi who's someone bukmun umyun, but there are people who are sitting down, neutral people, who will perhaps benefit. So, you know, but again, I emphasize, if you can and have the capabilities, do it. If not, then not just for the sake of doing it, do it. Just, if you don't have the knowledge, just leave it.
Okay, I'm going to find we only have 5 minutes left, so we're going to go to Brother Yahya for 30-40 seconds.
I completely agree with what Dr. Hilli said on the last point, but on the point before that, I just want to come back to him. Yes, the Imam has said, لا تكون من السببين. However, we also have a fruitful amount of abundance of literature from the Imams, such as Ziyarat Ashura, which we all recite, in which we do not do sub. Sub is to insult, rather we do la'an. And the difference, the subtle difference between the two is that la'an is the action where we make invocation towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we ask Him to remove His mercy from certain individuals. And I don't see how al-Mu'mineen would come into that, because the title al-Mu'mineen merely refers to one who is the wife of a prophet and therefore cannot marry anyone else after the death of a prophet. So yes, we completely agree. There's no need to do insulting of these individuals. Rather, we should make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He would remove His mercy from these individuals. And as to the scholars he's mentioned as well, yes, these are condemned by our ulama, and if our ulama condemn a certain scholar, then we must obey this. Likewise, there are certain people that call themselves scholars who do praising of these individuals who are the enemies of the Ahlulbayt, and when our scholars say that we need to condemn these individuals, we likewise need to condemn them. So we must have a consistent standard on that. Inshallah.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the audience? Is there a sister at the front?
I just have a question.
Can we just wait for the mic to come? Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned that you read online that the Wahhabis say that we do taqiyya when they hear about the shuyukh or people who say these things. Why would they say that we do taqiyya? Is it not because they find proof for these beliefs in our books?
No, this is the way. This is the scapegoat. Really, they try to, try to come up with any excuse to try to say that that what they said was right, and this issue of taqiyya they always use, because it's a win-win situation for them. When we come and prove them wrong, right, from their books, right. They come and say, well, you're just saying this, because you're doing taqiyya, but that's not really right, and you tell the other people. But in fact, they themselves do know that this is true. But again, they try to tell others. They put on websites so the people, neutral people, they come and read about it and say, yes, I've just confirmed that my views on Shiaism are like this because they have this issue about taqiyya. But they haven't done any work at all. It's true that I will say this, and I know Brother Yahya also agrees that a lot of ulama condemned this particular scholar who came out and cursed, right? Cursed the Sahaba, etc. And we said this wrong, but they come out and say, you're doing this because you're doing taqiyya. They have no proof for that.
My say it's wrong. You said that we should do our research. This particular scholar, for example, he mentions evidence to do, for example, cursing in our own books. What do you think? He mentions evidence for cursing in our own books, our imams did it. What do you think about this?
Well, you have to. Well, there's no evidence at all from our books that say that cursing is allowed. If there are hadiths, then they're absolutely not authenticated. Remember, the issues of authentication is vital. Anyone can interpret any hadith by the way they want, but issues that you have to try to find out the authenticity of a hadith.
Okay, we're having something of a sisters' revolution here. Can we go to sister over there?
Okay, assalamu alaikum. So just back to the cursing issue. Has there been any proof that any of the imams actually did curse? And when did Ziyarat Ashura? When was it sorry, excuse my ignorance on it, but who wrote it and when was it written?
Okay, we are ranging wildly off topic, but if you can, no, it's fine. Can you talk about it very briefly?
I will answer both questions. In the book Man La Yahdurhu al-Faqih, we have evidence from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. In his Qunut, he used to curse certain individuals. It does not mention who these individuals are. However, it gives a code so specific that anyone who's a Shia would know exactly who these individuals are. They happen to be 4 individuals, 2 of them female and 4 male. In regards to Ziyarat Ashura, the hadith is considered hadith al-Qudsi by most of our ulama. Some have tried to doubt whether or not the la'an is an authentic part of it. However, I recommend anyone that speaks Arabic goes back and reads Ayatollah Tabrizi's research on this, in which he proved that the earliest manuscripts do actually mention the La'an. So that's what I have to say on it.
Very quickly.
I disagree with what I said, because I don't, there is no, again, very important, you have to go and look for the authenticity of the hadith, and it's not our akhlaq to come out and curse others. If I come and curse A, B, and C here, a person who comes here and says, this is not, I don't want to follow your religion. It's not our akhlaq to come and curse people. So, I very much disagree with that.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and thank you to our two speakers. Can we have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad?